The USS Enterprise is a pretty powerful ship in its many incarnations. Okay, maybe not the NX-01 Enterprise. I joke, that ship was powerful in some situations. But when we get to the likes of the Galaxy-Class USS Enterprise D, it's powerful, and easily make light work of most Star Trek species ships, unless they're an outdated Klingon bird of prey it seems. Anyway, how do you make that ship even more overpowered? Well, add a giant laser to it of course. While the Galaxy-class starship was an iconic symbol of Starfleet in the 24th century, and even into the 25th century, an alternative future showed us what was possible if it was upgraded and made the exploration starship into a battleship that could take on multiple enemy starships at once. Today, we're talking about the Galaxy-X Dreadnought class. Let's explore more. Welcome to Trek Central, I'm your host Captain Jack. Before we warp into this video, if you want to keep up to date on the latest Star Trek news, lore and more, make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can also follow us on social media for daily updates on the Star Trek universe. As always, please let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you're talking about Star Trek, we want to hear about it. Okay, engage. Are you ready to take command of your own starship? Then good news! This video is sponsored by Star Trek Fleet Command. Prepare to recruit legendary characters, crew iconic starships, and embark on missions across the Star Trek universe. You can use our link in our video description or scan our QR code to download the game for free on mobile or PC. Make it so. Step into the vast Star Trek universe and experience a journey like no other. This game lets you chart your own path, mirroring the legendary exploration, alliances, and strategic battles that define the Star Trek legacy. Every moment of gameplay becomes your personal story of discovery, growth, and epic decisions. December sees Q's continuing event arrive. Of course, he brings chaos and events that ripple across the galaxy. New officers include Soren, Romy, and Miss Q. 20 new missions feature you excelling in events, dominating in battles, and evolving your starship as you bridge the gap between G3 and G5, all while preparing for the future. But the Galaxy-class fun does not stop there. Players can redeem a promo code, Crushers, to get 2 full officer unlocks and a full unlock of the Jellyfish starship, once you hit Ops 18 for free. The ship gift automatically becomes visible at level 18 for anyone who claims it. The promo is live now and runs till January 15th, so beam down ASAP. Prepare to go to warp speed today and use my link in the video description, or scan my QR code to start your Galaxy-class adventures in Star Trek Fleet Command today. So, what are we talking about? This is the Galaxy-X class starship, which existed in an alternate timeline in the Star Trek universe, as shown in the Next Generation series finale, All Good Things. However, it also exists in the Star Trek Online, the MMO video game. I actually command one of these in-game in my personal fleet. Today we'll explore what makes this starship unique and how it fits into the Star Trek universe. Designed and launched from Utopia Planitia fleet yards, the Galaxy Dreadnought was initially built off of the frame of the iconic Galaxy-class starship and was active during the 2390s. It measured 641 meters in length, 463 meters in width, and featured 42 decks. Warp propulsion still worked as standard. However, the Galaxy Dreadnought could go to a sustained warp speed at a factor of 13, higher than the original class of starship, which could only maintain warp 9.6 for a few hours. It is unknown if this was the starship's top cruise speed, but as it can go to warp 13 sustainably, it could probably push a higher warp factor just for not that long. Speaking of faster than light propulsion, the Galaxy Dreadnought could be equipped with a quantum slipstream drive in the 25th century. This unique technology, while still experimental, allowed for faster propulsion. However, as with the original design, the slipstream can only be maintained for a short time before needing to stop and cool down. In the alternative timeline of All Good Things, due to the war with the Klingons, it is unknown whether Starfleet developed the quantum slipstream technology. The inclusion of the iconic third nacelle would be useful for creating increased power lines and a more stabilized warp field. The nacelles had additional structures on top of them, and the pilots had fins on the outer curves. While an upgrade and a redesign of the original Galaxy-class starship, the Dreadnought version still retains some iconic features, such as the source of separation, which could aid evacuations and use unique attack tactics. While the original Galaxy class would only use the source of separation in dire situations, such as an evacuation, the Dreadnought would use it better during combat. The ship would support multiple phaser banks and photon torpedoes, including aft torpedo launchers. Each launch tube was capable of firing at least 5 photon torpedoes simultaneously. The original Galaxy class typically carried around 250 photon torpedoes. However, the Galaxy Dreadnought likely carried more and probably used quantum torpedoes, which were more common by the turn of the 25th century. An additional weapons array was fitted to the ship's dorsal hull, right next to the bridge section. This was a dual phaser cannon that complemented the other array of weaponry that the ship carried. One of the most prominent features on the Dreadnought Galaxy-class was the mounted phaser on the underside of the saucer section. Known as a spinal phaser lance, it's a devastating weapon. Given that it's built into the structure, specifically the spine of the Starship's hull, this weapon is attached fully and cannot be removed. It can fire a massive single phaser beam that is capable of penetrating even a Klingon attack ship. A cloaking device was typically installed on the Galaxy Dreadnought. Originally, the Federation was not allowed to use cloaking devices on starships, except for the US's Defiant in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. However, by the time of the Galaxy Dreadnought coming around, the Treaty of Elrond had been dissolved due to the Romulan Star Empire's dissolution and the Kitterum Accord's collapse in 2399. Therefore, the Federation was able to create and install their own homemade cloaking device on their starships, such as the Galaxy-Class Dreadnought. Due to the versatility of a cloaking device designed by Starfleet, it could also be installed on other starships within the fleet. Defense-wise, the ship could be equipped with your standard Starfleet shield systems, which would be appropriate for the 25th century. Such shields could also include regenerative shielding. Some starships would feature the ability to produce an antimatter spread. This was the process of ejecting antimatter into a pyrotechnical display around the friendly starship, and it worked to confuse and disrupt enemy scanners. Additionally, the spread would disable any tractor beam that was locked on, allowing the ship to retreat if need be. Canon-wise, the only time the Dreadnought USS Enterprise D has appeared on screen is during Star Trek Next Generation series final, All Good Things. During a temporal event known as the Anti-Time Disruption, a future was shown that included the crew of the Enterprise D, all leading different lives. This was well before the series of Star Trek Picard even came about and showed us what the crew really did in the future. We even see the Enterprise D still active far into the future, though she had been changed a fair bit. The ship was not destroyed on Veridian 3, much like the actual Enterprise D had been, or rather would be. Timelines, am I right? The Enterprise D continued to serve as the United Federation of Planets flagship. However, the ship was scheduled for decommissioning 5 years before Picard saw this anti-time future. William T. Riker, now promoted to Admiral, would save his old ship and make it his flagship. Riker and the Enterprise D would be based at Starbase 247. The ship would be fully refitted with a third warp nacelle. Additionally, new technology was installed on the now aging Starship. A powerful phaser emitter, which was a spinal phaser lance, was installed on the dorsal hull, and a cloaking device was also installed. Following Jean-Luc Picard's joining of the USS Passenger to investigate the anti-time anomaly, Admiral Riker realized that Picard would not listen. He took the Enterprise to intercept the underpowered medical starship. Arriving just in time, the Enterprise intercepted 2 Klingon battleships and successfully destroyed one of the attacking ships with the Enterprise's new phaser lance. Seeing their defeat, the other Klingon vessel retreated. The Enterprise then beamed the crew of the USS Passenger due to an impending warp core breach. Just as the crew, including Captain Beverly Picard, were beamed aboard, the Passenger was destroyed. Admiral Riker was insistent on returning to Federation space. However, Picard convinced him to travel to the Devron system and investigate the anomaly. The future Enterprise D would arrive in the system and watch the initial formation of the anomaly. However, it would be the last starship to be destroyed once the anomaly was sealed. Therefore, this prevented this ship from coming into existence in this timeline. Due to these events occurring in an alternative future, the Galaxy-Class Dreadnought does not currently exist in the prime Star Trek timeline. However, Jean-Luc Picard is the only person who remembers the events of the anti-time eruption. Therefore, he would know the future version of the USS Enterprise D. In the prime timeline of the Star Trek universe, we know that the USS Enterprise D was destroyed at Veridian 3, and then later salvaged and repaired by Commodore Geordi LaForge. It also appears that Starfleet were in the process of phasing out the Galaxy-class line of ships in favour of the more modern Ross-class. The likely factor in this decision is the loss of so many Galaxy-class ships during the Dominion War, and the newer design of the Ross-class. We've done a full breakdown of a Ross-class starship here on the Trek Central channel, and if you want to learn why it's a newer design of a Galaxy, go watch that one and you can learn more. Now, we've never seen any advances to the Galaxy-class that would compare to the Dreadnought version. We can assume either he did not remember or chose not to mention it without risking the timeline changing. Let's not forget that the future where this ultimate Enterprise existed wasn't the best future for Picard or the galaxy as a whole. The Galaxy-class Dreadnought appears in Star Trek Online, the video game. The game's storyline takes place in the 25th century, so it has nothing to do with the baseline Star Trek canon. Yes, it bases its story on it, but it's always done its own thing compared to Star Trek Picard, which is also set in the 25th century. In 2399, at the turn of the 20th century, the Galaxy-class exploration cruiser was refitted after the collapse of the Kittimer Accords. In response to the increased hostility with the Klingon Empire, the newly refitted and redesigned Galaxy-class Dreadnought would carry a cloaking device and the devastating spinal lance weapon. They could also install cloaking devices after the collapse of the Romulan Star Empire caused by the Hobus supernova, which destroyed Romulus. Several versions of the Galaxy-Class Dreadnought were also developed, including the Venture-Class, the Monarch-Class, and the Yamato-Class, all with unique designs and taking lessons from the previous Galaxy-Class legacy. Star Trek Online would also name the Galaxy-Class Dreadnought the Devron-Class and the Galaxy-X-Class. However, this was only mentioned in the background materials. As such, these names are not canon for the TV show or Star Trek Online itself. If you want to fly the ship, you can still do so in-game, and it's well worth it. Star Trek Online acknowledgement of the Battle of Iridium 3 means the Enterprise D was officially destroyed, and therefore the Enterprise E succeeded her. Therefore, the actual Enterprise D Dreadnought Galaxy class still does not exist in the game. The Enterprise namesake is given to the Odyssey-class Dreadnought, the USS Enterprise F. Also in Star Trek Online, vessels of the Galaxy X class were used by the Terran Empire's Imperial Starfleet. These include the ISS Study, which led a Terran invasion of the Prime Universe. Originally, Andrew Probert designed the Galaxy-class Starship, while Herman Zimmerman supervised the interiors. Several key Star Trek creative people would have a hand in developing the Galaxy Dreadnought. However, we'll learn later that Andrew Probert was not the biggest fan. The Galaxy-class Dreadnought was first introduced in Star Trek The Next Generation's final All Good Things. The ship was created due to the final episode showing the future of the Star Trek universe. Jumping 25 years-ish in time means the creators needed to show the starships had evolved. During the design and planning of the final episode, visual effects supervisor Dan Curry suggested the team modify the existing model of the USS Enterprise by adding a third nacelle. Curry thought it should be obvious that the ship looked different and like it had been souped up to show the passing of time. Once Rick Berman and Peter Larson signed off on the design, Curry handed the concepts over to his colleague, Greg Jean. Curry asked Jean with making some additional modifications to the Enterprise D model at the time. The idea was to give the future Enterprise heavy weaponry. The first stop was to put a rather large cannon on the bottom of the starship. This would become the Spinal Laser Lance. As we mentioned earlier, the original design of the Galaxy-class Enterprise D, Andrew Probert, was not exactly the biggest fan of the Galaxy Dreadnought starship. One of the big irks of the ship design was the inclusion of a third nacelle. This being as typically in Star Trek, under Gene Roddenberry, starships are only supposed to have 2 nacelles to allow for warp travel. Therefore, the inclusion of a third nacelle goes against what the original creator envisioned. Also, Probert did not like sticking random fins on the ship. When seeing the Galaxy Dreadnought on screen for the first time, Andrew Probert's reaction was, and we quote, "What the f*** is that?" It kinda says it all when it comes to his opinions on the starship when you think about it and put it like that. What do you think of the overpowered Galaxy class? Would you like to see this design once again sometime in the future? I'm not quite sure if we would see it in the Prime timeline, but I would always love another Mirror Universe adventure to see if that faction is using this design. I think the way Star Trek Online has handled it has been done super well. If you want to keep up to date on the latest Star Trek news, lore and more, then hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can also follow us on social media or join our community Discord server. For now, I've been Captain Jack, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Live long and prosper, my friends.